Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whe- Whenever you're going to listen to this podcast, it's a great day, sunny day in Halifax to be back at the neighborhood conversations. It's good to always have the opportunity to chat about different things. And the neighborhood conversations is a podcast that invites inclusive leaders to have conversations, to invite them to bring their knowledge, to bring their advocacies with us. And we're so happy today to be talking about community development, be talking about Indigenous history and literacy for us to know more, and so we have the amazing April Adams. She is one who is working for the federal government, someone who has a passion for community work. And I have worked alongside April in different capacities at different gatherings, and I've seen the passion and the work that she brings. And so it's really good to have you, April, to the neighborhood conversations. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. April, today in today's society, there's a lot of conversations going around with how can we connect with community, learning about people's ways of advocacy and awareness. But I want to start off today's conversation with who is April? Let's
Mm,
talk about you yourself and your work for a minute
okay.
before we deep dive into the conversation, because that's really good and important when trying to connect with a human approach. Getting to know what you do gives everyone and give our listening audience more of a clarity of why we're having this conversation today. Yeah.
Okay. Who am I? Okay. Before I start, though, I do want to say my pronouns are she, her, elle. I should say ou elle si tu parles en français. And I have green eyes, brown hair, and I'm wearing a green jacket, my favorite color, and a white shirt. But to answer your question, most importantly, I'd say I'm a mom, I'm a caregiver, I'm a community member, lifelong learner, and volunteer who's passionate like about purposeful change that people embrace. And I understand we have many hard conversations ahead of us, but I know that with support and nourishment, we can use the stories to increase awareness, ignite self growth, flip the narrative, and change what people talk about. So there's powers in numbers, and I invite everyone to help create a blueprint for success, a new one. But volunteer wise, I actually just accepted and am preparing for a cultural lead role with the North American Indigenous Games that are going to be happening in Halifax
Oh
2023.
wow, that's
Very
amazing.
exciting. I'm really pumped about that. And I sit on Mental Health and Workplace Wellness Advisory Committee, multiple MMIWG 2S plus calls for action review committees, calls for justice. And I'm also on a Last Post Fund provincial board where I lead the Indigenous unmarked graves and traditional name marking initiatives. I moderate for a work Place Wellness Directorate, Indigenous Sharing Circle, Center for Abilities Management and Workplace Wellness. I'll say that all 10 times fast. And I'm a professional Indigenous Circle ambassador speaker for the Knowledge Circle for Indigenous Inclusion, among other things.
Wow.
I just recently started working for the Deputy Minister's Office of Inclusion, which again I'm pumped about, with KCII and ITRC, after working for a handful of other federal government departments. And I love my new job and the people I work with. And in my spare time, no pun intended, I can be found reading, dancing, creating, viewing, or listening to the arts with the 8 young human beings I care for the most and my spirit sister in tow. Or you could hear me speaking and participating at random special events across Turtle Island in my efforts to better learn, understand, and act on the things I care and am most passionate about. That's me in a nutshell.
Wow. That's amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. That's why I connected with April at the gathering that was hosted by Life Schoolhouse, actually.
That's right. And
Yeah,
Tamara.
and so I'm getting connected with April from there, and I've seen the amazing work and wanted to bring her on to this podcast to talk about the amazing work that she's doing, but also to talk about community development and why it's important. So I want to go into that question. Why is community
Mm.
important to you? from your overall perspective. Yeah, yeah,
Well, like, first of all, it's a great question. I love this question. And it's really important to me because, one, I'm a human being and we need connection and we need to feel like we belong. An example of this, I live in Halifax Regional Municipality, but I belong in the amazing community building that I actually live in, where I reside, and where we all smile and wave and nod at each other when we see each other. We stop and chat when
right.
we run into each other when we have time, and we make time, and we help each other when we need it, or even if not. And I'll give you an example of that, without even having to ask to. Like my amazing next door neighbor. I had a really busy week. I was at a few events, and she knocked on my door and gave me this just tray, and it had a pot of coffee, a pot of tea, it had a banana, blueberries,
Wow.
toast, jam, peanut butter, milk, sugar, everything I needed to kind of just like relax and get
Wow.
my work done that day. And then my neighbor across the hall just yesterday gave my son, who just turned 6, my youngest, just $5 to go buy a gift. It's just very, very
Community
connected,
driven. Yeah, yeah.
and that feeling of belonging is something so wonderful, to feel that connection. So belonging is key. That's definitely what is important to me, is belonging somewhere,
Indeed.
to some people. Find your people.
Wow. Yeah, find your people. Yeah, I agree. And at the neighbor conversation, we go into neighborhoods to find great people to
Mm,
connect with and to understand them, and that's a great way of saying that your next door neighbor, you went into a neighbor to have a conversation, and it made impact. They trust you, they value you, and they
that's
want to
right.
make sure that you're staying healthy, you have all the
Mhm.
nutritions in order for us to move
I
forward. And
know, so
that's what
sweet.
community is all about. Community is always, it's about giving that nutrition,
Yeah,
vitamins that we need in order to keep it healthy, in order to keep it
taking care of one
in
another.
yeah,
Yes.
taking care of one another. That's oh,
Hmm.
let's keep community healthy again by giving the right vitamins. Whoa! So okay. Now you literally just gave me another question
Okay.
that I have to ask. What are the vitamins that you feel that community needs? And you said
Oh,
belonging, and belonging is
I love
one of
this.
the vitamin B. Yeah, the vitamin
Another
B is
great
really good.
question.
That belonging, huh?
Very, very key. Belonging is key. And I like
Yeah,
this question because I just attended 2 amazing in-person conferences this week, that
yeah,
were with the managers community and another with a youth network. And
yeah.
what an amazing time I had. Many of us went to a mixer Tuesday evening at the Wood Monkey on the Dartmouth waterfront too. And the events took place at BIO, the Bedford Institute of Oceanography. What a lovely
Right.
venue. It was really great, and connection is as important as belonging, in my opinion. And I met some new
Mm,
lifelong friends at these events where we talked about community. That was it. And so the vitamins that we discussed as a group were
right.
allyship, accessibility, connection, feeling heard, having a
Yeah.
voice,
Yeah.
and the importance of having a seat at the tables that
Yeah.
make the decisions about us so that we feel valued and are
Yeah.
able to meaningfully contribute. So those were definitely some key vitamins. And to achieve all of this, one definitely needs, I know I say this a lot, but self awareness. We need to understand, we need to check our
Right.
biases. We all have them.
Mm,
Be aware of others
yeah.
in culturally humble ways, and
Yeah.
try learning about and understanding other people's intersectionality, while being authentic. People need to know that it's okay to be vulnerable, and practice vulnerability in safe spaces.
Yeah.
We all need to understand that we're all human beings. We've talked about this many times, especially after seeing the amazing keynote speaker, Naomi
Yeah.
Tutu.
Yes.
And we're all going to make mistakes. But if you see someone putting in the effort, and it's obvious they're tripping up, lend them a hand, help them,
Right.
because it takes
Right.
courage to step out into the unknown, and
Yeah.
everybody needs help sometimes. I think we all know
Mm,
that. So support
yeah.
them
Yeah.
when they do. Hold out a branch.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
way to connect. What a way to
Right.
connect.
And and that's so amazing, April, in connecting in that way. And that brings me to like my next question. How does community connect with the work that you do? That's one of my next questions, is because connecting is always good, in
Mhm.
connecting the work that we do, and how does it apply with us engaging with community. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So how does it apply? I would say it's that effort, as I know I keep repeating myself, but to learn
No,
about and
no.
understand something from another's viewpoint, with
Yeah.
an open heart, open mind, and ears that aren't listening with an intent to respond, but rather to grow, um, uh, you know, and on your lifelong journey and with others. And connection
Mm,
creates like that power to keep our institutions and systems in check. This is really, really key, because power imbalances are all around the 90% of people they hinder. Um, uh,
right.
so, so that's why, like, let's connect, shall we?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the connection, and the connection helps you to move forward.
Mhm.
And I know my executive director and I, we were talking about how we connect when it comes down from a staff level, and how we connect with people, and how we understand the language, how we understand each other's messages. Like those
Mm.
are all important, and it helps us
Language is so
to bring.
important.
And so language is important in how we bring. Um, I want to shift a little bit in
Okay.
regards to the indigenous work and stuff like that, but
Yes.
I have this question that I know I said to you. So let's talk a little bit about advocacy. You do an
Mhm.
indigenous education and an awareness. What do you think about indigenous religions, cultures, and traditions? Um, I want to hear more of that for sure. Yeah,
I look forward to my family's security in the future. That's the main goal as a father.
The empowerment from changing careers has really just made me want to get out of bed in the morning.
I'm looking forward to growing my business. So I want to hire people like I was hired. I want to give guys that chance.
Il me fera plaisir de continuer à travailler avec les immigrants francophones en Nouvelle-Écosse.
I am looking forward to the financial freedom that I never had before.
I love that they're circular. I love
yeah,
that about them, for one. And I say that because I work for the federal government. It's very
mm,
hierarchical, and a lot of
yeah,
our systems and our institutions are very much like that. So I really like a circular approach, and an example of that is sharing circles.
yeah,
Where everyone gets to speak, and usually you're in a circle, and if you're not ready to speak at the time it comes around to you,
right,
most of them that I'm a part of, they'll come back around and check with you at the end. So it's very inclusive, and I love how diverse they can be, and having all of those different viewpoints that you might not be aware of. So I can't say enough how important it is to include youth. And
yeah,
elders, in with that larger number of people in the middle who are usually running things, or doing, majority of the work and situations, including key people who have different viewpoints, who can shine some light on different aspects, are really
yeah,
important. And a lot of
right,
people that I come across will tell me that um, it's hard to get through to certain groups. It's hard to get through to
yeah,
certain groups, and I always tell them, have you included youth in in your initiative? Because
yeah,
youth have a very unique perspective, and I don't
yeah.
know
They
about
do.
anybody else, but
Yeah,
my dad might not listen to me, but he'll listen to my children.
yeah, 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 yeah,
They can get him to learn or do or be anything, I swear. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm always kind of saying that, and I like that indigenous cultures include that, and then I also really just like um, their celebrations and their storytelling is so key. Really understanding
Mm,
someone's story. We talk about intersectionality a lot together, and understanding that story so you can empathize, be compassionate, and overall humble, is really, really eye opening and heart opening, and it opens your mind too. They really balance
a
on
different
those, the
level.
spirit,
Yeah.
emotional, mental, and physical well-being. And I think that those are all things that sometimes we forget about, one or two or more of those components of who we are as a human being, and they're key. They're
Yeah.
key to our own well-being, right? So
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you so much, April, for sharing that. And I totally agree with you when it comes down to the story and telling the story. It helps us to know where we come from and who we are, and stuff like that. And talking about
Mhm.
this, the story, telling and reminding of history, there's in the indigenous root, there's a practice that is done, which is the blanket exercise. Can you share a bit about the blanket exercise and how that helps other people to connect with the community to understand the indigenous way of things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, so the team that I just actually moved from to where I am now, we were doing a launch nationally of training and learning, and in regards to the kickoff was the blanket exercise, and then
Mhm.
cultural humility, and talking about Canadian human rights tribunals and etc. The blanket exercise is one of those things that it helps you uncover your own biases. That's the best way that I can kind of explain it quickly.
Yeah.
What I love about the trainers who do this exercise is that having a very safe space is so key. It's so
Right.
key to feel safe when you're learning about your own biases, and especially
Mm.
since majority of us it's unconscious, right? Our biases
Yeah.
are systemically ingrained and unconscious, so they don't align with our beliefs,
Mm.
and our views and our morals even, but they've been kind of ingrained in us in an unconscious way as we've grown and we've developed and we've aged, and so becoming aware of those is
Mm.
so important. Self-awareness is the key to anyone who wants to be inclusive, to include people from many cultures and backgrounds, etc. Self-awareness is going to be your best foot forward for sure, because we all have biases, and I know that some people might not agree with that, but it's
Mhm.
true, and it's not something that it's not, it doesn't make us bad to have unconscious biases. It's
Right.
not something that we control, but
Mm.
becoming aware of them is so
Yeah.
key. And so I got to, as part of that project, write a course on cultural humility, and
Mm.
if I uncovered countless biases that I have, and worked
Yeah.
through those, and it was really transformational. And um, I've shared it with my children and my family and my
Yeah.
community, the things that I've learned, and I think that's the other thing is it's okay to be vulnerable, and find
Yeah.
safe spaces where you can be vulnerable for sure.
Mm. Mm. I like that. I like that being vulnerable, where you're
Mhm.
feeling comfortable and stuff like that, and acknowledging those biases and trying to work through them is really key and really important for sure. Yeah. You
Definitely.
know, when we talk about understanding each other, and
Mhm.
understanding the hurt, healing is important throughout the process, and stuff like that. How would you describe this for the community when it comes down to healing, and stuff like that? Yeah.
I love this topic because I feel like there's so many people that take different approaches to it. And that's one of the things I love most.
Yeah.
If you ever get the chance, I really recommend going and listening to the podcast Two Crees in a Pod, with Dr.
Mm.
Michael Hart as the guest speaker. In
Oh
it, he
wow.
talks about healing being a process, and that you don't
Yeah.
have to be healed to be able to help with and do other things, to even help others.
Wow. I like that.
It's a continual process, and I really
Yeah.
like that, and I like tying into this, maybe the ACEs program, and their research about how different healing practices benefit different people. So some people talking to someone really, really helps them. It
Right.
helps them on that process of healing, and that's wonderful. But others, they actually need to be involved in something or doing something like cultural practices. They talked about this
Right.
one gentleman who started making ribbon skirts, and that was a real huge part of his healing journey. So I think you can't put healing in a box, and I think that's probably
Yeah.
my key takeaway is healing can come in many forms, but you need to take the time to heal. That's definitely key.
Yes.
And allowing
So
that
true.
space for it and that time to self-reflect and grow from it is so important, in my opinion.
Wow. April Adams, everyone. April, you have shared so much knowledge that gives us the energy that we need to hear, and it helps us to carry on in engaging into the community, into your neighborhood, into helping people next door, like that person, like your neighbor
Mhm.
helping you next door, working with you, understanding
Absolutely.
you. This is so helpful, and I'm so blessed to have brought you on, and that you accepted also, to hear more of this information. Before you go, leave us with a word of saying that you have learned from an elder that will help
Okay.
us with community work. Because I know elders, they always have wise words. They always
Oh my
give us
goodness.
some word from the wise to share. What is
Mhm.
a word or saying that a word or saying a quote that an elder has said to you, that will help us with community work that we're doing?
I'm gonna do two actually. I'm gonna do an elder and a knowledge keeper because I'm really
Yeah,
engrossed in their work right now,
yeah,
in a
yeah.
positive way. And Elder Dumont's definition of culture, and information on Indigenous worldview, which is like the commonalities across Indigenous cultures around the world, is amazing. If you haven't read it or haven't learned about it, I really, really, really recommend looking that up. It's something that will grow your heart. So that's one. And then Dr. Yellowbird's work will also help with community work as well. And he works at the University of Manitoba and is focused on decolonizing the narrative to change what people talk and story about. And I think learning about and understanding about decolonizing, is another huge key takeaway for me, that I'd like to share with everyone.
Wow. Thank you so much, April Adams, for coming on to today's conversation. On the Neighborhood Conversations, we try to invite people that will bring things into the neighborhood to help stay connected and stay updated as to what's going on. And you have brought a lot to this table today, and I look forward to bringing you back on at some point to the Neighborhood Conversations, when we are talking about other sort of topics that relates to community development, Indigenous, or even more other topics that you're passionate about, because you have a variety of areas of topics for sure. But we appreciate you coming on to our conversation today. Um, Folks, there you have it. April Adams, amazing individual, community leader, doing amazing work. Hopefully, you took something in from this conversation today, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Templeton. You're my people.
This podcast is funded by the Government of Nova Scotia.